All right, so I'm glad to welcome Matthew Everhard and Michael Grasso, our special guests today. And the reason why we invited them is just because of some of the uh, unique and innovative work they've been doing with video production for their churches. So at his church in South San Francisco, Michael Grasso has been, one of the things he's been doing is recording some additional teaching videos that I look forward to hearing more about what that process was like. And Matthew Everhard is an accomplished YouTuber, and in addition to being a pastor of a PCA church in Pennsylvania. So I'm very thankful for these two gentlemen were willing to join us. So in just a minute, we'll have some introductions from them. But in case you're new to these webinars, the purpose of these webinars is to equip you with proven methodologies of outreach. We summarize these using the acronym SEAN. So S stands for sermon publishing, E stands for event promotion, A stands for advertising, and N stands for newsletters. And so here's Sean, our Scottish rooster, as our mascot. So today we're talking about really an aspect of sermon publishing, publishing those videos. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to our panel discussion with Matthew and Michael. And I guess first, just like both of you to introduce yourselves, just who you are, where you serve as a pastor, and maybe one other interesting fact about yourself. So why don't we start with you, Michael?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. As Daniel mentioned, I'm Michael Grasso, and our church is in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was just talking to Matthew here before this started, and a lot of people don't have a very high view of San Francisco, but we have a little bit of a buffer between us and the actual city, so we're grateful for that. I'm married, 5 kids, and graduated from Greenville Seminary in 2019, and this is my first call out here. So was ordained kind of right before the COVID time. Um, and in terms of an interesting fact, I don't know, there's probably something interesting in there. Not really sure what else to say, but just laboring for the advancement of God's kingdom.
Very good. How about you, Matthew?
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Matthew. I'm one of the pastors at Gospel Fellowship PCA. We are a Reformed Bible-believing church just north of Pittsburgh. So if you're anywhere near, come say hello in real life. Also an adjunct professor at RPTS, the Reformed Presbyterian Theological Seminary in Pittsburgh. And I have one wife and 3 children, and I'm also a Jonathan Edwards scholar. So some of my scholastic and academic work is in pursuit of better understanding and applying the thinking of Jonathan Edwards. So I guess that's an interesting little factoid. And then, of course, I'm probably on this webinar today because of my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Matthew Everhard. And I do sermons and chats and discussions, Bible studies, church history, practical application, basically whatever I want to talk about on the YouTube channel, all related to Christ and all for his glory.
Very good. Well, the first topic I want to ask you all about is sermons. So we'll talk about sermons for probably about 20, 25 minutes, and then we'll have questions about the additional teaching videos that both of you record as well, kind of how you do them and why you do them. And as we go through this, if any of you all have questions, just start posting those into the chat, and we will, depending on how many questions there are, we'll either read those off or we will give you the opportunity to unmute yourself and ask those. So I'll start with sermons. Easy question, maybe, I think easy. Why does your church record and publish sermon videos? What's your thought process there?
You want to go first, Michael?
I was just about to ask you. I'm happy to go first. Yeah.
Go for it. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think in terms of publishing these videos online, the way I view it is that as ministers of the gospel, we want to make the gospel known as widely as we can. And it just seems like historically the church has always made use of technology that enhances communication to that end. I'm thinking of like even at the time of the Reformation, you had the printing press comes out, and immediately that's put to use, for the sake of the just the communication of the gospel. And obviously things like the internet are broader in terms of their use than just communications, but something like YouTube or even a website, it is a form of communication, and it is what is used generally today. And so I think for us, we just want to, it's just a desire to see the gospel made known as widely as we can, and to use whatever means and avenues we have at our disposal to that end.
Yeah, I would totally agree with everything Michael just said. I especially appreciate the analogy of the printing press and Christians' advancement of using technology to purvey the gospel. Even going back further than that, the book form itself, the codex, back in the days of handwritten manuscripts, was essentially a Christian innovation. Before that, the scroll was the primary way of publishing and promoting written articles, pieces, theses, books, all kinds of stuff. It was done through the scroll, and the codex was actually basically coextensive with Christianity, and especially the spread of New Testament scripture. So that's pretty interesting in and of itself. I'd say our church really did more advancement with video production related to the COVID period. Of course, I think every single church had to scramble to try to figure that out. And thankfully, in God's providence, we had just previously installed a camera into our sanctuary for the very first time. And we're a pretty small church, by the way. We're not a mega church. We don't have a huge production budget or anything like that. We don't have lights, lasers, fog machines, anything like that. We just installed a simple, basic family handy cam in our sanctuary. And the idea there was especially for the use of shut-ins, widows, other people. One thing that I'll say, and Michael, I'll bet you probably agree with this, is almost everybody that visits our church right now comes after having watched some of our videos online prior. Most people now, when they're going to visit or considering changing churches, they're going to do some serious profiling of the church before they even darken the doors. Matter of fact, I have just a little habit of asking people whenever we get visitors, which is fairly regularly, how they first heard of us. And almost everybody to a person now mentions that they saw us first on YouTube and then decided to come visit us in real life. One caution that I'm sure we could talk more about this theologically is, as a church that believes in the ordinary means of grace, we never, ever, ever want our church videos of the services and whatnot to ever replace actual in-person attendance in worship on the Lord's Day with the other Bible-believing Christians as we are. But there are some occasions where you have people that are traveling, people that have business away, especially the sick and shut-ins, who can make good advantage of having sermon video. So that's one of the reasons that we stuck with it, even after the COVID situation came and went.
Yeah, very good. So how do you all feel about the current quality of your weekly sermon recordings? Are there discussions? Are you happy with how they are? Are there things that you're trying to improve? Are there recent improvements that you've made? Is there any kind of ongoing things that are on your radar that you're trying to tweak?
Yeah, I'll go first this time, Michael, and then we'll just kind of take turns. We are always trying to improve. And honestly, if you were to check out our church video right now, you might be like, well, this could definitely stand improving. And I would definitely probably agree with you on that. It's been a constant battle for us to keep up and to make sure things are the quality that people come to expect. The problem is that there's so much good video content being put out there all the time on every single media forum, including YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, mainline media, that it's pretty hard to keep up in terms of quality. We've been struggling quite a bit because the whole system that we put together, honestly, is a patchwork quilt of various instruments that we just either had donated to us or purchased along the way. Our sound system is actually pretty old. One person was helping us recently with a problem. We had a latency issue, still having it actually. And they looked at our system and they said, you know, if you were going to build a system, this wouldn't be it because this is just a hodgepodge of old components and things like that. But nevertheless, it works for what it is right now. And we're constantly trying to add little pieces of our system to make it work, eliminating buzzes. We recently added a second camera to try to get another angle. That ended up creating all kinds of new difficulties that we hadn't anticipated before, including new buzzes and other problems. And then keeping up our volunteers with learning how to use the equipment is another challenge because our church is just not filled with people that are necessarily from video production backgrounds or audio production backgrounds, just normal folks, and they're trying to learn the technology and just keep up with it. And it's a little bit challenging for sure. I wouldn't say we have everything figured out, but we're trying. How about you, Michael?
Yeah. So for us, I'd say in terms of our goals for a sermon video, we're really looking for, just a video that's clear and clean, and then audio that's clear and easily understood. I think if we've got those things, then I would say we're doing pretty well. So what we do is we will record the entire service, and that's same as with Matthew. That's for the sake of those who are. It's outreach. It's those for those who are sick, for those who are shut-ins. Those are really the main categories of person that we have in mind with recording our entire service. Then there will be a YouTube link that will be related to it'll just have the name of the sermon. And then on early in the week, we'll then clip it down to just the sermon. So the service will be clipped. And then the YouTube link is already embedded in the website. So then it's automatically kind of pegged just for the sermon at that point. And so really like the main thing for us then is, we want to make sure that especially that sermon portion is, a crisp, clear video, and that the audio is clear. One of the things that's just recently come to our attention is that the like the max volume of our audio. A few people have mentioned that it's too low. So just something also to keep in mind, that you want to maybe even listen to parts of it or ask for feedback for those who are listening regularly, that they can provide kind of simple and clear things like that. I'll note another thing that we've struggled with in the past and is still an issue we're trying to resolve it better, but internet speed. So having things like disconnect while you're in the middle of streaming your service has been an issue for us. We're trying to make a solution, just have a solution where we've just got to, not relying on Wi-Fi, but have an Ethernet cord that goes straight into the modem there. But for us, like our setup, it sounds like maybe similar to Matthew, or that it's the whole system wasn't really built originally for this with this in mind, and so like we've got to run that Ethernet cable like upstairs, and it's not ideal. But if you can find a way to avoid the I would say that in my mind three things: making sure the internet is good all the time, having just a clear video, and then crisp audio. I think those things. I think anything beyond that is extra. But if you've got those things, then it's I think it's doing pretty well.
And I'll just jump in and add too that if I had to choose between video and audio, I would choose better audio.
Yeah.
And that's because knowing just a little bit about YouTube from all the other stuff that I do, if people watch a video and the quality of the video isn't exactly HD as they would expect, they will put up with it as long as they can crisply hear what's being discussed. But the opposite is not true. If you have a very precise picture, but the audio is garbled or the levels aren't right, or you've got a strange kind of a funky buzz, people will log off of that video incredibly quickly. So if you're going to solve one of two problems, aim for the best audio that you possibly can, even if it's at the cost of video. If you had to spend money in one place or the other, especially with essentially in oral form like sermon preaching, you're going to want to aim towards the audio. And I talk to people that watch some of our stuff sometimes, and they'll say that they really don't even watch the video as much. They might put their phone on in their car. They really do care, though, that the audio is nice and crisp. So if you're going to work on something, I'd say audio is more important than video.
Yeah, that's really good. So in that vein, be it audio or video or software, is there kind of one piece of equipment or piece of software that you've found to be just particularly helpful over the past few years?
Yeah, well, so when we were starting all of this, we made a few equipment purchases. This was related for us as well to COVID, and then we've just continued using this equipment since then. We bought, like, a fairly nice camera, but then the major thing we bought for the audio was a nice sound mixer, and I think we had an old one in it. Just we wanted to update it. So to be honest, I don't really know a lot about the technology in terms of what's good or like what's crucial, but I just in terms of remembering our budget and what we did, that was the main purchase that we made. I would say too, with regard to a comment that Matthew made a while ago, we're also a small church. We don't have a big budget. I would say all the equipment that we spent money on was under $5,000. So that's probably, that's about where we were. I think the sound mixer was maybe two. So for us, that's been sufficient. That's been fine. Like I said, I think our audio, we need to turn it up a little bit more, but other than that, I think it's been pretty good. So anyway, that's what I'd say as far as what we've done.
I would say here's something that you can do for free, which is really awesome, and I use this on my YouTube videos as well, is a program called OBS. And do you use that, Michael? Do you use OBS? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do use OBS. Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. It's a thing that you can get online. And basically it's a little program that you can install on your computer, and it will help you to shift scenes and different settings you can have. You can set a bunch of different presets for if you have multiple cameras. There's just a lot you can do with it. You can add graphics if you want to have your scriptures up in the background, and you really don't have to buy any new equipment to use it. And it's kind of one of those things where it's free, so you're not going to lose anything by using it, but it might actually give you a bunch of capabilities that you can, you can change the different kinds of views and setups that you have. I use it on my personal YouTube channel a lot too, and that's been a real helpful thing for me, as basically the program through which your camera is coming into, and then it allows you to just like modify what the viewer is seeing on the other end.
Yeah, we use OBS as well. I think it's very useful. I'll just say one other thing is I think the way I found out about OBS was looking at YouTube videos about how to do videos. So that's another thing. I don't know if you guys do this, but if anything breaks in our house or something, I will go to YouTube and find the YouTube video about someone fixing like the exact thing that's broken. What I found too is that even practical things like like how to set up a camera or like lighting or audio, finding a video of someone that's explained that and knows a lot more than I do, that's usually a pretty helpful way to get the video questions. I think that's probably how I found OBS was someone explaining the best way to produce these kind of videos, and then they just walk you through showing you how to use it.
Right.
So
Yeah. Good stuff.
Matthew, what have you done for your audio? Is there is there a particular piece of equipment, or what have you found that's been really helpful with improving the audio quality, like you were talking
So
about?
technically, this might exceed my expertise here. I'm actually not an expert on putting together these kinds of systems. However, one thing I'll say is that recently, when we tried to add a new camera, we thought it was going to be really nice because then we could just toggle back and forth between two shots like they do on TV all the time. You watch any show, even a very basic show, they have multiple cameras and they're switching back and forth between two different angles or perspectives. So we bought the exact same camera twice, which we were told was a good idea because then the computer doesn't have to know two different camera systems. And so we bought the exact same camera twice, put one in the back, one on the side of the sanctuary, and it worked perfectly, except all of a sudden it introduced some kind of a new buzz noise, and people started complaining about that they were hearing some kind of a buzz. Some people couldn't hear it, some people could. And so we're like, oh, great. Well, we messed up our system now and we're not sure what to do. Well, the fix ended up being an $8 piece from Amazon, which is a buzz reducer. And it's just a tiny little gadget that you plug in between the computer and between your audio in port. And it's really good at eliminating all kinds of different buzzes that come into the system. So again, the fix was actually a really, really cheap thing. Now, I would say that probably having good microphones is pretty important. In our main sound system, we do have some really excellent microphones that we use, especially what we call the Britney mic, which is the mic that I wear over my ear. Call it a Britney Spears. You can dance and move around. Not that I dance, but you get the idea that you can move around a little bit. You can step away from the pulpit and such. And we have some pretty high-end microphones there. And then with my podcasting stuff for my YouTube channel, the one piece of equipment that I would say you should probably spend a little bit more on is a good podcasting microphone. So again, I'm not an expert on these things. I often take recommendations from people who are. So I'll often ask friends, what do you guys use? Or I'll post a question on Twitter, what should I get for this? And very often seems like people in the know can very quickly tell you exactly what you need to buy, and very often cheaper than you might think.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious about that $8 buzz reducer. That sounds like a
Yeah, maybe I'll have to find a link for that and share that. Yeah.
So for those of you watching, if any of you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. We're going to transition into additional teaching videos. So both of you have done a lot of non-sermon videos. So Matthew, you have all these videos you post on your YouTube channel, some really fascinating ones about how to make marginal notations in your Bible, and some that are on more controversial topics and that sort of thing. And Michael, you have this whole section on your website where you're addressing various topics such as the end times or salvation, and there's shorter videos related to those specific topics. They're not sermons, but they're additional topical teaching videos. So I was kind of curious to hear from both of you the backstory about why you started making those types of videos.
You want to go first, Michael?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, this was, yeah, I'm just trying to remember when we started this. I had to have been during COVID. It was still during the COVID thing. And really it does follow from what I said earlier about just wanting the gospel to be proclaimed as widely as possible, and realizing that if you're wanting it to be an outreach, some people may have a particular question and not want to listen to an entire sermon on something that they may or may not think is going to answer their question. But if you can make a video about a question that a person has and just title it by like the answer to this question, then it can be a kind of a first step into being able to minister to a person. So from the beginning, our kind of strategy has been to supplement sermon videos with other sort of smaller things that can maybe lead to someone listening to sermons in the future, and then beyond that, then coming and visiting us in person. So it's sort of like a kind of like an on-ramp sort of thing to like eventually getting someone to visit us. And even if someone doesn't end up doing that, but just maybe even just exposing someone to the answer to a biblical question, things like that. So one of the things that we did early on was I would make these videos, and I'll just say too, those particular kinds of videos, I've not really done them in a couple of years. So we kind of are doing different things now. But one of the things that we tried to do was we would have different platforms we would post everything on. So I think we would do Instagram, podcast, and YouTube, and everything would be cross-linked with the website. Everything would be posted on the website as well. And the idea then is that if someone finds us through anything, like any media platform, then they would also be directed to the website, which would have all the sermons, and then be able to enable someone to make a decision about visiting, or even just if they don't live in the area, still benefiting from the ministry. So that's kind of the idea, is like sort of a way to kind of begin to have some influence with people that maybe wouldn't otherwise click on our videos. I'll say too, another thing that's been helpful for us that's kind of related is making YouTube shorts of our of just sermon clips. So we'll take like like a 45-second clip of something that's, kind of like a high point in a sermon, and then, title it like, the answer to this or that question, or, like the, what is this or that, or, something like that. And what I found is that those videos get a lot more views than our sermons will typically. Like it's got a wider reach. It's a very, it's because it's so short, people can click on it and get their, they can be exposed to something. And the idea then is that it's again like kind of a foothold to you maybe encourage someone to go and then to check out the fuller sermon where the clip came from. So same kind of thing with Instagram as well. Instagram's kind of built for that more, that shorter video style. So that's really that really was the initial idea, was trying to kind of bridge the gap between, getting someone to click on a full-length sermon as outreach may be difficult. How do you kind of get them to interact with something that's a little bit, a little bit more manageable?
Yeah, that's great. How do you make those shorts, YouTube shorts?
Yeah, so there is now we've got someone in our church that does it. So I will find the clip, and I'll just say like it's at like these time markers. And there is a so I was doing it though. We were using it's another free thing. I think I probably found it from a YouTube video. Veed, I think it's like v.io or something, and I don't even know what all that means, but it's Veed, and you can do, I believe, 30 minutes of video editing for free each month. So you don't need a paid subscription. It's either 15 or 30 minutes. But if you're making, 30-second or 1-minute clips for like just a short video, you can basically, I mean, you'll never reach it. You think about, probably doing 8 or 9 sermons a month if you've got morning and evening worship. So that's 10 minutes of video editing at the most. So you can use the free version, and they've got kind of presets for the for YouTube Shorts. You need like the right dimensions, and you can just hit YouTube Shorts. They'll actually pull in subtitles automatically. If you just you click a couple buttons, you can get subtitles in. So that's basically all we do, is we'll clip it down, put it in that system. I think we just use like iMovie to clip it, and then we'll put it into this Veed.io, add subtitles, make the dimensions correct, and then you can just post it to YouTube, and then
Awesome.
it generally gets more views.
Very good. So let's go back to you, Matthew. What's the backstory with you starting to create YouTube videos about various topics?
Yeah, I don't even know why I posted the first video 12 years ago, but I was just interested in posting something. And so I was posting videos about books and Bibles that I really like, and Bible note-taking habits and things like that. That kind of became my first bread and butter. And I was just surprised at how many people were watching and interested in the same things that I'm interested in. There's millions of people out there that are interested in the very same things that you are. Michael said something earlier, you want to solve any problem, you just look it up on YouTube. My wife fixed our microwave. I was ready to throw it away and buy a new one. She's like, nah, let's just YouTube it first. And sure enough, someone's got the exact same microwave, and they showed a video of how to fix it. So never had to buy a new microwave. Well, the same thing's true theologically. Almost any topic, any passage, any church history event or piece, any practical tip or suggestion about church leadership or pastoral ministry, people are thinking about the same things. And so the one thing that I would say that's my secret sauce is I post every single week, every single Wednesday and Friday. And that is hard to do because it takes a lot of ideation on my part, but I'm kind of an ideas person anyways. So whatever I'm thinking about on my run or my workout in the morning is often what ends up on my YouTube channel a little bit later. Sometimes I'd have to do some prep or some setup or a little bit more study on that topic, but as a preacher, I'm reading all the time, I'm thinking all the time, I'm writing all the time, and I have an excess of ideas that don't make it into my normal sermons. And anybody who's ever preached probably knows that you prep a 40-minute sermon, but you've always got 20 minutes of extra ideas that you just didn't have time to say. And so a lot of that stuff finds its way into YouTube videos. And the nice thing about YouTube, a couple things is, first, everybody has it on their phone. Every single person that has a cell phone has YouTube pre-installed as an app. You don't have to go get a special app like Sermon Audio or something like that. There's other good apps, but why would you do that? Everybody has YouTube on their phone. The whole world does. So it just seemed instinctive to me, well, use the most popular video app. And then, I just think that the other thing that's really neat is that with YouTube, there are people looking for 1 minute videos to watch because they've only got a minute. There are people that are looking for 5 minutes. There are people that are looking for 15, 20, an hour, 3 hours. There's a market for every single length of YouTube clip, and they're almost infinitely um, fractionable, meaning that you could film a 90-minute video, post that, cut the same video to three 30-minute videos, post those, cut those down to 5-minute videos. You could post those. You could get multiple videos from just one idea set, and often that's the way that I do it. So I guess I feel like, the world needs to hear about Christ, and I'm going to do that in every possible way through preaching, through street evangelism, through writing academic works, through writing popular works, and definitely through YouTube too. And with consistency over the years, I've been doing this for 12 years, every single week, twice a week. I've managed to gain about 67,000 followers and 10 million views. It's really incredible what the Lord has done just with a desire to share Christ on the internet. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. How have you all gone about selecting the topics?
You want to go first on this?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm always just preparing stuff. I'm an ideas person. I'm constantly thinking. I'm an expository preacher, first of all, so we're always working through books of the Bible, chapter by chapter, paragraph by paragraph, line by line. So most of what I think about is just the Bible. In addition to that, there's my own personal devotional life. I'll often read something in my devotions that I find to be profound that I want to tell people about it. Even if I'm not preaching on that book, I still want to say something about it. So let's say I'm preaching through Romans right now, but I'm reading the Psalms devotionally. Well, maybe I'll make a video about the Psalms from my devotions. I'm always reading systematic theology or historical theology or something about Jonathan Edwards or preparing for a class I'm going to teach. And so I turn a lot of that stuff into YouTube videos too. And I just assume that if there's somebody that wants to hear about it, they'll find it online somewhere. The algorithm will bring it to their to their doorstep, and eventually somebody will watch pretty much everything that we put out. So I never run short of ideas. That is definitely not my problem. My problem is time to do it all. And you could certainly make a whole career out of it, but we're pastors, and so our primary career and calling is to care for our people and to do the ministries of our church. So that's always foremost.
Yeah, so for me, I think this is still a little bit of a work in progress for us. So, we don't, in terms of, man, just in looking at Matthew's YouTube channel, he's obviously been doing this for a long time and has had a lot of success. We're kind of at the front end of that. Like I didn't start doing any videos. I wasn't even in the ministry 12 years ago. We didn't start doing anything online until COVID, and I wasn't doing anything separately. So we're kind of beginning at the beginning, and my strategy has changed somewhat, and still trying to kind of figure out what's best. So I'll kind of like give an overview of the way I've thought and even the way I'm thinking now, and maybe that'll be helpful for somebody. But we began a few years ago, and I was just thinking like answering the questions related to the system of the doctrines that we preach from the pulpit. That's just the ministry of the church is helpful, and posting that online. One of the things we were thinking is that this really does help people to see who we are if they're visiting us and they want to know, what does the church think about this? Chances are they're going to be asking a question that's related to something that we've posted. So it's helpful for that, just being open about who we are. I also did some videos on things that were kind of like hot topic issues. During the the George Floyd stuff and Black Lives Matter, I posted a couple videos on critical race theory and that sort of thing, and I've done a Sunday school series on that, which we posted to the website. So I think like hot topic things are good in that you're entering into a public conversation in a public platform, and trying to assess these things from a biblical perspective. It's questions that people have, and in that way we're addressing those those things that are on people's minds. One of the things that I tried to do, I'm trying to do more of um, now, and we'll see if this works. But there was about a year ago, I posted a video that was a response video to kind of a well-known atheist who kind of gave some of his reasons why he doesn't believe that God exists. And my my thinking now is that I think response videos can be helpful. Um, so again, this is like kind of untested. I'm sort of I'm at the beginning stages of all the things that I'm doing, but that was the most successful video I think that we've posted on on our church's channel. It was over 1,000 views. So for us that was very high. Um, but an advantage of that is that if you're responding to something that's in the world, you might be a small YouTube channel like us, but you're responding to something that does have traction and that people are talking about, that people are viewing. People may view something like that and say, is like, well, is there another side to this argument? And if you can provide that other side of the argument, my thinking is that could be a good way to get exposure that you wouldn't otherwise have. So like this atheist said. His YouTube video was called This is why I don't believe in God. And so I called the YouTube video This is why I believe in God, and then a response to Alex O'Connor. It's like things like that. If you want to go that route, and advantages, you are entering into a public discussion and trying to bring Christ to bear on it. So anyway, that's experimental, but
Yeah. What do you think about that, Matthew? Have you done response videos?
Yeah, I have. Sometimes that works. Sometimes I'm nervous because I don't really have the stomach for a lot of controversy. But
yeah.
one thing you're going to have to get over is that everything you say is going to be controversial. Even just kind of like the milk toast, even basic Christianity type posts, people are not going to like that. You could turn off the comments if you don't have the stomach to hear it. I leave my comments on all the time because, believe it or not, that helps the algorithm. The more people that comment on things, the more people end up seeing it. So at this point, I've just given up on keeping the comment section orderly and nice. I don't think that's possible, unfortunately. So I just let people say whatever they want to say in the comments, and then sometimes, that'll drive argumentation, but that's just the online space. And as far as I'm concerned, that's totally okay. I do not typically reply to replies unless somebody says something very kind, and then I'll say thank you or something like that. Just another basic tip, though. I want to bring this back to the local church because although there's a global aspect to this, and certainly people find my content all over the world in strange places that I'd never expect. I've had people in Russia and in the Ukraine and other places around the world listening during times of crisis. I have soldiers that watch my channel pretty religiously, which I'm very thankful for, guys that are stationed around the world. But, the point is really to glorify Christ and to augment the ministry of the local church. So one thing I'm careful to do in every video, no matter what length, even if it's short, as I say where we are. We're just north of Pittsburgh. And very often, what we'll find is that people are surprised how close our church is and will very often come visit us because of something that they've heard. Sometimes people will even drive a bit of a ways just to say hello and say thank you for the stuff that I'm putting out there. But I think it's always wise to just practically say your location because you're going to be surprised at how many people are within drivable distance to you that found you randomly and they would not know that you're close unless you say and tell them where you are and what your church is. And that's something that's been really positive for us. At first, I think my elders were kind of like, oh, I don't know, we're pretty conservative, traditional Presbyterian church. Like, I don't know about this online stuff. But now they're all, to a man, totally convinced that it's a good thing for the church because they see the influx of visitors that we get almost every single Sunday. People stopping in to say hello, considering us as a possible congregation to join. And the proof is kind of in the pudding as far as that goes. Because again, people won't visit your church unless they check you out online first. That's just the rule for 2025 and beyond. People are going to scope you out before they come visit you.
Oh, Daniel, I think you're on mute.
Oop,
Thank you.
yep. Yep.
So YouTube is not the only video publishing platform. Are there any other, one of you mentioned Instagram. Are there any other platforms you think about that you've either tried in the past, or is there anything else other than YouTube that you think people should think about as far where they should post their videos?
I'll go first this time, Michael. I do think that if you're gonna go ahead and take the time to record stuff and to try to make it good, it does make sense to post it to multiple platforms, supposing that you have the manpower to do that. So we also have Spotify, which is traditionally it's a podcast listening app, but a lot of these apps are kind of melding in the same direction of having everything available. So YouTube, which previously was video and audio, they added a podcasting app function to YouTube. So YouTube also does podcasting. But then the reverse is also true that Spotify, which used to be podcasting only, now has video hosting as well. So we cross post to Spotify and YouTube. And again, we chose those two because they're two of the most popular apps that people use. There's all kinds of other stuff out there. We have not got into TikTok. We have not really done much with Instagram. You can post to Facebook if you want to, long form video, short form video. It's just how much time do you want to spend doing it? For us, for the most part, the two big ones would be Spotify and YouTube, and that pretty much captures the audience as far as we're concerned, with probably YouTube being the most important of those two.
Yeah, so for us, I would agree that YouTube is where we spend most of our effort. But we've always had yeah, an Instagram presence, and then and podcasts as well. So when during COVID we started the podcast just audio, and we were using Anchor at that point, which was it was a free service. So it's, again, it's just wanting to go with the low cost option.
Yep.
And they would kind of automatically get you on all the major podcasting platforms. So if
Right.
you'd post it to Anchor, and then they would automatically get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and whatever else there was. We still use that. We've got people in our church. We just volunteer to take care of like this or that thing. So I think we may need to be doing a better job of getting the podcast posted more regularly. But I would say that we have had people find us from the podcast and then have come and visited us because they listened to something on our podcast and then eventually found us. One of the things that the other thing I'll say is, we do Instagram, or at least we have in the past. We're kind of inconsistent at times, but the main benefit I think for Instagram is to do the YouTube Shorts and then to just repost it to Instagram. It's sort of built for the same sort of thing. I think the YouTube Shorts are actually, my understanding is just copying basically what Instagram was doing. And so if you're going to make a YouTube short, it's kind of the same situation as what Matthew had said earlier about another topic. You might as well just go ahead and post it to Instagram. It's going to get you a slightly different kind of audience set. And then the thing that we always do then too is bringing it back to what Matthew was saying about as well, the kind of local element of the church. We just make sure everything is cross-linked. So like if you're on our YouTube channel, everything will direct you back to the website or to our other platforms. And same thing with everything else. So everything is kind of driving you towards the website. So then you can know all the information you need about the church and then make a decision about visiting. So that's been our strategy. YouTube is good for YouTube's kind of good for everything. But the shorts I think are also good for Instagram. And then a podcast, what we've done historically is the audio portion of what we do ends up being posted there.
Just one additional note, Michael, that you mentioned Anchor, and if anybody just wrote that down as a possibility, Anchor ended up getting bought out by Spotify. So now if you had an Anchor account, it is now Spotify. And it's really easy. You can just upload the same video that you've already prepared for YouTube, upload the same thing to Spotify, and it'll automatically turn it into an audio podcast as well as a video podcast, and it'll distribute it then to all the main podcasting apps like your iTunes or whatever else people are listening to. So that's probably a pretty good direction to go.
It is useful. I remember early on when we were trying to figure this out, it was kind of hard for me to figure out how to strip the audio from a video, but it was really nice with Anchor. And now, as Matthew said, it is now Spotify has acquired Anchor, but you just upload the video and it'll just strip it out for you. It'll just
Right.
to just
Yep.
your audio, and you don't have to do anything. So
Super easy.
yeah, so it's nice if you can yes, particularly if there's someone in your church that like is wants to serve in some way and sees the value of this kind of outreach. Um, you've got the content made. You might as well have it on as many platforms as you can. So
Great. My last question before we open it up to anyone else, and we have a question in chat that we'll get to as well. But the last question I have is, suppose that a pastor is on this call or watching this video and is interested in getting into recording some additional topical videos, maybe Matthew, like what you've done, every Wednesday and Friday, or Michael, some of the things that you've done in the past. What kind of questions do you think a pastor should ask himself before he gets into that?
You mean personal questions, like asking himself existential questions about the importance of this or like the significance of it?
Yeah, just kind of like, I guess you kind of alluded to it already, is just, just be aware that there's going to be controversy maybe, or
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of like, time management. I'm not a pastor, so I don't know, but
Right.
time management is like, is this really a good use of my time? Are there any kind of, what kind of,
Yeah, okay. I got you. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
great question. And I could not answer that for everybody other than to say that the time that we've put into it has been well worth it. Now, one thing that I'll tell you about my personal YouTube channel, which has a much bigger audience than our church's YouTube channel, is that I spend very, very, very little time editing anything. I can almost say I don't even know how to edit a video. Now, I can do a couple different things. I can clip out parts or something like that. But most of the content, I sit down, I film it in one take, and then I just upload it and walk away from it. I don't feel that I have to add bumpers and music and backgrounds and an intro and an outro. I think a lot of that is a waste of time, to be honest. When I listen to a podcast, I don't want to hear their song every single time you start the podcast. You got to wait 2 minutes of listening to their song. I've heard the song
yeah,
before.
that's right.
And also, if you're going to do a podcast where you have a partner and going to do some conversational type stuff, I I'm just not interested in banter. So one thing that I do is I just start talking about it from the first second,
Right.
from the first 5 seconds I'm into the topic. And then I'll do maybe the first 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll introduce myself and mention the church, and then I just get right back into it. But some people that I know, they've gotten really frustrated because they want it to be perfect. And so they're going to try to edit everything. They're going to do all these jump cuts to eliminate every time you say or they're going to refilm pieces and then try to insert it. You'll never get anything done that way. You just have to be comfortable with yourself. And if you're not ready for controversy, this probably isn't the field for you. You just have to let people hash it out in the comments. That's totally fine. But again, think of it as spreading as wide a net as possible for people to hear about Christ and to hear about your local church. And if that's what's the ultimate end of this, then I think it's a very good thing to do. But everybody will have to judge for themselves whether or not they should be visiting their widows or they should be meeting with people, doing Bible studies or doing office management. We all have a limited time frame to work with. So where is this going to fit in your life? For me, I get up super early every morning. My alarm goes off at 5:20. I try to get to work 2 hours before everybody else gets to work so that I can do this kind of stuff in the mornings and then have a normal pastoral day. So hopefully it doesn't replace my normal activities as a pastor, but as a supplement to it. But those are existential questions that I do think you have to ask about what is the best way you could be spending your time. I can't answer that for everybody, but for us, it has paid off.
Yeah, I'll just say that I think if you're going to be posting these extra videos, it is a form of outreach. And I think you just got to be prepared for whatever you'd normally expect in doing normal evangelism, but just recognizing that it's going to be it's addressed publicly. So it's going to be, it's going to be before a lot of people, or at least more people than you would normally be able to have a conversation with in, say, an afternoon or something. And so because of that, there is going to be the pushback, as has been mentioned a few times. And so there's sort of, I think with any kind of evangelistic ministry, there is just a need to be ready that there's going to be, responses that are going to be more hostile. But that's going to be true of any kind of evangelistic ministry, I think. Anything that you do that is sharing the gospel with an unbeliever, some will respond favorably, but there's going to be some segment that's going to respond negatively, and they'll be happy to let you know about it. And so you just got to be you've got to be willing to endure that. I would just say to recognize that this is in that category, and therefore just to expect those kinds of things to come up. So are you ready for that, I think is the
that's great.
Is the question.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we have a question in the chat here from Ron. Ron, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question? Ron? All right, I will read off the question. So Ron has posted, do either of you men have documentation? I think this is about sermons, about how all the people involved perform their respective tasks. That is like a timeline or some sort of process documentation, or is it just more relying on what they learned and they already know? Do you have any kind of operations manual for Sunday morning sermon recording, or is it just more of a tacit knowledge, I guess?
Yeah, we do have a document for that. And ours is a little bit complicated. We actually have two services on Sunday mornings and Sunday school in between. So we have an 8:30, then we have 9:45 Sunday school, and then we have 11 o'clock. For our sound team, they have to know how to use all of the pieces of equipment that we have, which really isn't that much. It's not totally overwhelming, but there's a little bit of know-how that's required. For the 11 o'clock service, they only need to know how to turn on the sound machine and turn on the mics and stuff like that. For the 8:30 though, they have to know how to run the cameras and go live on YouTube, because we stream the first service and then we will later cut that into the service and just the sermon separately. So 8:30 is a little bit harder. We had to come up with a document, basically a very simple how-to procedural manual for people to basically just check off that they've done each thing. And then normally it goes off without a hitch. A little bit of training, but it's not rocket science. Now, these things can be really, really much more complicated depending on your setup and your equipment. Sometimes things get overly complicated in my view. But ours is, like I said, we're a pretty small church, pretty basic equipment, so it's doable for most people that want to learn how to try to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us, we actually don't have any kind of document for anything that we do. It's all very informal. So someone will come to us and say, how can I serve? And I've got this kind of gifts, and we'll say, oh, helping run the video or helping us post things to this or that would be great. And then we just teach them how to do it, and then we just move on. So I think for us, I'm sure we would benefit from such a document. We're just kind of at the scale where we just do it informally. So
yeah, the PCA church I'm a part of, where it's about 250-ish members, and there's kind of different people that serve in the AV team, and they have some sort of documentation. So, and it can definitely be beneficial. So well, thank you, brothers, for coming today. I'm going to post some links into the chat and just do a couple of little housekeeping here. See if I can get my links sorted out. There we go. Oh, wait a second. Let's try that again. So there's a bunch of things there in the links. So one of those, whoa, Okay, let's see. Go to my slides here. There we go. So one of them is we have our next webinar is coming up on March 13. And it's about church name changes. We're trying to put together another panel discussion. We have one confirmed panelist. But if you've ever thought about whether it'd be a good idea to change the name of your church, then this will be one you want to mark your calendar for. In addition, related to topical items, make sure you check out the Bible Answers Project. That's a project that I serve as the manager for, and that's one of the things we're trying to do primarily now just through the form of articles, but we do have some ideas about getting into video content someday. But we're trying to provide topical answers to common Bible questions. And then the last thing I want to mention is the last link there is toward the end of our conversation today, we're talking about evangelism. And if you want to discuss more about what evangelism looks like today, we have a monthly discussion group that you can join, led by Reverend Chris Bird, who is an OPC evangelist. And the next conversation is going to be March 13 or March 11, something like that. You can go to the link and you can see the dates there. And it was a great conversation. It's like a book discussion group, different from these webinars. So we're here trying to provide lots of good resources where we can learn from each other. So thank you guys. Thank you, brothers, for coming today. And,
you're welcome. Have a great day, everybody.
All right. You too.
See you. Bye.